Hi, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to use keras and TensorFlow in R. So what we have to do for the project is we have to do a neural network on the spam data set. So part of the exercise is to figure out how to load that data into R and um, and get it into the right format for use with TensorFlow. So when you look at the code from the last tutorial, we see that we had this fit function that we called with x equals mnist train x and y equals mnist train y. So let's take a look at what this mnist train thing is. Right, so this is a list of two things, and each one of these things, so if we look at mnist train x, what is this thing? This is an array. So same thing with y, I think. So in R, we need to convert our data into an array object in order to train them using using TensorFlow and keras. So for the project, what we have to do, let's go back to the project description here. We have to load the spam data set. And so here, the first thing that we should do is we should go and look up where is the spam data set. Here is spam data set. Here I'm going to copy the link. And here what I'm going to do, I'm going to modify my script now. Well, actually, I'll just keep this code here and let's just add to the bottom spam example. So first thing, if not file exists, spam.data, download file spam.data. So what that's going to do is it's going to get that data file for us to analyze if we don't have it already. So here I get cannot open spam.data, permission denied. That's because I'm in a funny folder, program files. So you might have to change to a directory that you actually have write access to. So here I'm going to do that again. And so I guess it didn't download anything, so that means I have spam data in that folder. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use data table fread to get that spam data table into R as a spam DT object. So that's a data table in R. I'm using the str command to get a succinct representation of that. And that thing is, well, the first columns are all features, should be treated as the X. And then this last thing, V58, 58th column, that's the label, either 0 or 1, depending on whether or not it's spam. So the other columns correspond to features of different characteristics of each spam or each email message. So the spam DT, we need to convert into an array to get this to work in R. So first thing we do, let's look at the documentation for arrays in R. So so here it says usage array data dim names. So data is a vector giving the data to fill the array. So that's pretty simple. Dim, the dim attribute for the array to be created, that is an integer vector of length 1 or more, giving the maximal indices in each dimension. So in this case, we're going to need to give the dimensions. So in the previous example, the dimensions of the arrays were here, 60,000, that's the number of training examples, 28, 28, these are the second and third dimensional indices. And then the label output is going to be this one-dimensional array. So how can we convert this data table into an array? Well, let's start with just the label. Label call is in call spam dt. So label call is now the number that corresponds to our label. So spam dt double square brackets label call. Well, this is going to give back our just the that column, and then we can convert that to an array. In row spam dt. So let's see this y. Let's call that y. So our y now it's this one-dimensional array, right? Which we should be able to pass to TensorFlow. But remember that we need to first split our data before we do our training. Let's go back to the project description. So it says that we're supposed to scale the input matrix, same as previous projects, we'll get to that. But first we need to divide the data into 80% train, 20% test observations. All right, so we can do that using, one way to do that is with like a 5-fold cross-validation split. So let's do that. Let's assign in, let's have something called fold vec, which is going to be sample rep 1 to 5, L equals n row spam dt. So here sample is a random function like I've explained in previous tutorials. So here I'm using set seed to set the random seed. So it's not going to be, well, it's going to give a consistent result every time. Otherwise it will give me a different result every time. It's pseudo-random numbers. So here the fold vec, let's see, table fold vec, that's a vector with entries between 1 and 5, 922s, 921 ones, etc. It's 4,601 numbers, integers here. And so here, let's say test fold equals 1. So is test is going to be all of the fold vec which are equal to test fold. Is train, it's going to be everything which is not is test. So if we do that, now we can subset our data. Let's try to do that. Let's try to get the x and y train now. So yeah, it says the first thing we should do is scale the input matrix, same as previous projects. Same as in previous projects or as described here. So if you want, you can see like in the TensorFlow tutorial how they do that in Python. Here I'm just going to use the rscale function. So here it's scale. So here we have to use spam dt minus label call. That means all the other columns except for label call. And here I'll use with equals false. This is data table syntax to say that we don't want to actually, we don't want a column name called label call. We want to actually look for a variable in it called label call, and we're going to use that. So let's see if that works. I call that x scaled, xsc. So xsc, what is that? It's a numeric matrix. And now what we can do is we can convert that to x train, which is xsc just is train, and x test. WXSC is test. Right, so now we have a numeric matrix. I'm not sure if that will work as input in TensorFlow, right? Because in the previous example, we had an array. So, just so we can make sure that it's going to work with TensorFlow, we can do array XSC is train. Well, maybe to be clear, we can do xtrain mat, xtest mat. So these things are matrices, and we can do xtrain A for array. Then that would be an array with filled in entries of xtrain mat with dimensions, well, same dimensions as xtrain mat. I'm not sure if that probably should work either way, but let's just make sure that it works by using array, like y x test mat dim x test mat. Let's try that. So let's look at here. It looks like I'm missing a parentheses. Let's see what the difference is now between our xtrain mat and our xtrain array. It looks pretty similar, so I'm not sure if there's actually any difference. We can try both. But you can see that actually the classes are different. This one should be a matrix, and this one is an array. Oh, no, I guess that one is an array. It's a matrix as well. Okay, so I guess there's probably no difference. And actually, we can test. Is there a difference? Well, there's something different, but we don't. Yeah, so the difference is this dim names attribute. So in the matrix, we have the column names which are preserved, these v1, v2, etc. But in the array, the names are suppressed. This is why they're not showing up to be identical. Anyway, let's use that. And along with our corresponding y values. So here, the y train should be, here we have our whole vector of y's. So let's here just get y is train, y test, y is test. That should work. Let's see. So y train, this is an array with this many entries. Y test, it's an array with this many entries. So based on that, we should be able to plug into TensorFlow. So that'll be for the next tutorial. Thanks for listening.